What up, my geography people? We're on presentation number 3 here, slide 24. We're beginning with Christianity. We already just covered the first slide on it, on slide 23. Here we begin with 24. Again, Christianity originated as a Jewish faith. Again, Jesus was a Jew when he came up with this, when he developed this faith. The key difference between, again, the Jews and the Christians is that Christians believe Jesus is the Savior. The messenger, the voice of God. He's been chosen by God to deliver this message to the people. Whereas Jews believe, of course, that's not the case. Christians tend to follow the New Testament. They place value in the last 4 books of the Bible, the New Testament, whereas Jews venerate the Old Testament, the Torah. All right. God in the Old Testament is much more kind of vengeful, much more kind of negative. In the New Testament, it's much more optimism, much more friendly. All righty. Again, Christianity is the largest religion in the world. There are 3 branches of Christianity: Catholicism, Protestantism, and of course Orthodox Christianity. And of course there are many, many denominations. Some are well organized, like the Catholic Church. Some are well organized, like the Mormon Church. Others are not as organized. The Methodists are well organized as well. Others are not, like the Unitarians. And then, of course, there are many sects, smaller churches. They're out on their own. They're not with any sort of established, organized leadership. All right, they're small, kind of individual churches that exist that are not tied to any larger group. Now, originally, for the first 1,000 years of Christianity, there was only one branch. It was Catholicism. It was headed by the Pope. He was located in Italy, in Rome. However, starting in 1054 AD, there was a split between the Eastern Orthodox and the Catholic Church. All right, there were 2 technically popes. 2 individuals claimed to be the leader of the church. You had, of course, in Constantinople, you had an Eastern Orthodox leader. He was the Eastern Holy Roman Emperor. And then, of course, in Rome, you still had the Western Holy Roman Emperor. The folks in Southern and Eastern Europe tended to worship or to consider the man in the East the head of the church, whereas the people throughout the remainder of Europe considered the Pope in Italy to be the leader of the church. And then there was a separate split. There was a split between Catholics in Southern Europe and Protestants in Northern Europe in the 1400s. What happened was a priest in the Catholic Church named Martin Luther said that the church had too many rules. It was too harsh. It was too strict. He believed people should have a more direct relationship with God and should read the Bible themselves instead of having it read to them. Ultimately, he and many of those Northern European countries are going to embrace something called Protestantism, named after the protesters who originally broke away from the Catholics. Okay, Christianity, again, universalizing religion, works very hard to spread it around the rest of the world. It's the largest, most distributed. Again, about half of all Christians are Catholic. About 25% are Protestant. About 10% are Eastern Orthodox. The remainder are considered to be, smaller groups, smaller sects or denominations. Pentecostals, Mormons are considered to be Christians. There's groups called like the Armenian Christians, the Coptics, who live in Ethiopia and North Africa. All of these groups are technically Christian, not affiliated with any of the 3 branches. Again, many of these branches, next slide by the way, slide 26, many of these branches have many denominations. The Catholic branch, for instance, has the Roman Catholic Church. There's something called the Greek Catholic Church. We actually have one of those on West and La Palma there. The Armenian Catholic Church. The Eastern Orthodox branch has, the Greek Orthodox. They also have the Russian Orthodox Church. All right, so broken into different denominations. Protestant Church, they have Lutherans, Methodists, Baptists, Anglicans, Presbyterians, to name a few. And then there are sects. Alrighty, they're small independent churches. They don't have any organized leadership. They're not technically connected to any other church that exists. They just operate on their own independently. Usually these are small. Usually they have tiny congregations, usually located in rural areas. If you come across a place and it's like, hey, we're the First Church of God, alrighty, or it seems like a kind of a folksy name, a personalized name, usually those are sects. Those are unaffiliated churches. They're not connected to anybody else. Okay? Christianity and the landscape. landscape, I should say. Well, hey, the church was the center of everything, of the settlement. It was a place where you worshipped primarily. And the architecture and layout were very symbolic, oftentimes maybe in the shape of a cross. There would be artwork, maybe stained glass windows, images that depicted famous events in the religion. It was about beauty, majesty, power. It was supposed to be an attraction to get people there so that they would worship. Cemeteries are used in Christianity to bury the dead. Oftentimes they would be located near or around the church. Of course, the cemetery had a very particular layout with gravestones or tombstones. In some places, actually, those tombstones or gravestones, tombstones were built above ground. There were crypts or tombs that were kept in some places as well. Churches were built to show the power, the importance of religion, of the Catholic or Christian faiths. There might be it often dominated or towered over the landscape. There were rules in many European cities, for instance. The only buildings that could be built larger than one story were religious sites. I love this image number 28 here. It shows you the different types of religious buildings that might exist. I love the top left, the Vermont Protestant church, a perfect example. Oftentimes all white Protestant churches are. They have the church steeple, usually built out of wood, and ultimately they're considered to be less ornate, although still beautiful in their own way. The Paris Cathedral there, you can see the two bell towers there in the cathedral as opposed to the single steeple in the Vermont church. And then, of course, that modern Sacramento mega church that now exists, almost like mega church religion factories that we see. We have some of those around here. I would argue that places that have huge, like the Crystal Cathedral, places like that, are kind of like these new wave of large-scale churches. All right. I love the next image as well. You can see the Russian Orthodox. Look, Russian Orthodox churches would have oftentimes almost like a Hershey Kiss shaped dome at the top of their towers, at the top of their bell towers, and then there's going to be a cross almost always on top of the Hershey Kiss. Alrighty, on top of the little dome. So there's going to be a dome with a cross on the top of it in the Russian Orthodox Church. It's a dead giveaway. Alrighty, if you see the Hershey Kiss shape with the cross on top, you know, hey, that's Eastern Orthodox. Those are the Orthodox Church design. It's almost a mixture in some ways of the Islamic mosques and the Christian temples or cathedrals, and that makes a lot of sense because think about it, the Eastern Orthodox was smashed in between those two faiths. Alrighty. St. Peter's in Rome, you can see the massive St. Peter's Cathedral and Basilica. You can see the big domes that were often used as well in these huge basilicas. Ultimately, think of the mega cathedrals a lot of times with the Catholic Church. Islam. Let's finish up here with Islam. Islam is a religion that's very similar to Judaism and Christianity. Again, they believe in the same God. They have much of the same teachings. Again, big difference here. Islam adds a new prophet, Muhammad. They consider him to be the most important. He's the youngest. He comes. He's around in the late 500s, 500 years after Christ. He's born in Mecca. That's a city in Saudi Arabia, considered to be the most important city in Saudi Arabia in the Islamic faith today. He's raised to believe in many gods when he was born. As an adult, he eventually comes to venerate or to worship the same God again as Christians and Jews. He believes this God speaks to him. He tells him to begin teaching. There's no other God but that God. All right, so he can't be a polytheist. There's only one God. To Muhammad, God calls himself Allah, and so Muslims refer to God as Allah. All righty, we refer to him, or I should say, we Christians refer to him as God. All righty, and Muslims refer to him as Allah. Alrighty, and he also, according to Muhammad, is told that it's his job and it's the job of all Muslims to spread the religion around the world. It's been doing that. It's the last to emerge. It's the fastest developing. It's been the fastest growing. No religion has spread as quickly, as far, as fast as Islam. Today it's the number 2 religion in terms of total size. It's growing at a faster rate than any other. If you are a believer in Islam, you are a Muslim. All right? Muslims worship Islam. All right? Don't call somebody who believes in Islam an Islamist or Islam. They're called a Muslim. Key differences between Islam and Christianity and Judaism. One, Muslims have some special rules. that they are supposed to follow. One, they're expected to make a pilgrimage to Mecca at some point in their life. It's called the Hajj, all right, or the Haji. They must make this trip to Saudi Arabia to Mecca in order to complete this part of their duties, their responsibilities. Secondly, Muslims must pray 5 times a day. They have prayer rugs a lot of times. They pray on these rugs, and what they will do 5 different times throughout the day and at specific times, for instance, sun up and sundown, they pray facing the direction of Mecca, alrighty, towards Mecca. They will face that direction, and that's the way that they will pray. Again, 5 times is expected to be, follow the rules. So, thirdly, there's a very special month in Islam. It's called Ramadan. It's a holy month of sacrifice. You're expected to fast from sun up to sundown, to not eat anything during the holy month of Ramadan. You go on with your ways, your days, your work, everything. You just don't eat from sun up to sundown. Again, depicting a particularly tough, arduous time in Muhammad's life. 4, you're supposed to recite the Muslim prayer when you pray. All right. So when you pray, there's a particular Muslim prayer. You're expected to recite it. 5, you're supposed to give to the poor, alms to the poor. All right. You're supposed to donate or give your money or your resources or your time to the poor. Now, a couple of other things. Islam is very particular about the role of men and women. Muhammad was very strict, according to Allah, about the role or responsibility of men and women. There are certain responsibilities for men, certain for women. That's why today Islam oftentimes is considered to be a religion that maybe limits certain roles, opportunities, responsibilities for women. For instance, women oftentimes are expected to be covered. In some instances, they're not allowed, for instance, to walk around unaccompanied without a male relative. Again, some of these teachings are very strict. They go back to a very strict interpretation of the Quran, the holy book of Islam. All right, it is a universalizing religion, of course. It's the fastest growing, alrighty, around 1 billion or maybe over 1 billion. There are 2 branches of Islam. Sunni is by far the most popular, the most common. About 85-90% of Muslims are Sunni Muslims. Sunnis believe that any person can be a religious leader, and Imam is the religious leader. Shiites, about 15%, mostly located in Iran. Believe only a relative of Muhammad can be the Imam. And they trace the generations back to the original founder. Again, Islam today is very strong in North Africa, in Southwest Asia, in the Middle East, Indonesia. It is worldwide. Alrighty, I want to remind you, really, it's Iran, the country of Iran, Iran, that has almost all the Shiites in the world. Almost everybody else is Sunni. Okay, love this next diffusion map. Again, it shows you that it developed in Mecca, which is located in Saudi Arabia today, and then it spreads outward really in all directions to its existence all the way up till today. Alrighty, again, the Prophet was Muhammad. The teaching is the Quran. There are 5 pillars of Islam. We've already mentioned those. The Islamic calendar. It really begins in 622 AD when Muhammad was ordered by God to make a journey, a move from Mecca to another Saudi Arabian city, Medina. The lunar calendar in Ramadan moves through the seasons. Alrighty, what I mean there is it technically changes from year to year to year. The seasons do. Alright, so for instance, December might be winter one year, it might be spring the next, it might be summer the next. The reason for that is they wanted to switch the calendar around to change the seasons every year, to give some people more of a chance, for instance, to make the Hajj, the visit to Mecca, the pilgrimage during their life. Alright, for instance, it might be easier to get time off of work or something along those lines. Again, the holy book is the Quran. All right, it's Muhammad's teaching. It's Muhammad's messages that he received from God. And of course, when people make this Hajj, this visit, this pilgrimage to Saudi Arabia, they're supposed to go to a particular temple, or a particular mosque, I should say. It's called the Al-Kaaba. Many of the original writings, teachings of Islam are located in the Al-Kaaba, in this dark, black, building that's at the center of the mosque, and everybody that makes their pilgrimage is supposed to go to the Al-Kaaba, kind of touch it. And so we'll have hundreds of thousands, maybe even millions of pilgrims every year that make their way to this one mosque in Medina, in Saudi Arabia, so that they can try to get to the Kaaba. This is an amazing image here on slide 35 that shows you how many millions of people are just trying to get to that black box in the middle of the Kaaba there to touch it. They'll circle around it, kind of, almost like a whirlpool effect, to try to get as close as possible, because that's the holiest spot in all of Islam. In the interior of mosques look very unique. There's a lot of lines, there's a lot of arcs and curves, a lot of designs. That's because pictures, images are forbidden. It was forbidden by the religion to create any artwork showing Muhammad whatsoever. There's no images of him. If there are, oftentimes they're torn down, they're destroyed. Maybe even the person creating it is disciplined, is punished. They put great detail into their designs and decorations to make up for the fact that there's no images or pictures. So there's a lot of ornate, intricate designed arches, domes, to captivate the eye, to draw the eye. A lot of interesting lines and shapes in there. But again, no images, no pictures. I love this image on page 36 that shows you the mosque in southern Spain, actually, where you can see all those almost like a snake's body design, right, with the various lines going down. I love that. Alrighty, it's a dead giveaway. No images inside of a mosque. Alrighty. Here we go. Awesome mosque there. You see the amazing intricate dome there with, of course, the kind of the pole at the top of the mosque itself. Alrighty, now no crosses or anything on there. The symbol of Islam is the moon and star, the crescent moon and stars. Alrighty, so that's the image you're going to see. There's the Kaaba, image number 38. That's that holy building, that site that all Muslims are trying to. You see how the folks are just trying to put their hands on it in that image there. Alrighty, 39. Again, you can see in certain instances, in some of these places, because these religions were formed in the same area, some of the holiest sites are right on top of one another. This is a tremendous image right here, number 39. You see Islam's golden dome of the rock. I think that stands out pretty clearly. It's just a couple of 100 yards away from the Christian Church of the Holy Sepulchre. That's actually located in the top left up there. And then you can see Jews. You can see the Jews' holy western wall in the bottom left-hand corner. All of these things are almost built directly on top of one another. All right. Questions? If you do, of course, I want to remind you that those questions belong in the comment section, where I will be happy to answer them. Now, we've got some other religions I want to cover very briefly here. We're going to start with the Eastern religions. They're not exactly religions, they're almost like philosophies, ways of thought and behavior. And again, that's why Buddhism blended so well with these. First, Taoism, it's sometimes called Taoism as well. It's one of the two big philosophies in ancient China. There was a belief in you needed to live in harmony with nature. You needed to keep things as simple as possible, spontaneous as possible, live life to the fullest, be tender, be peaceful, be tranquil as well. And just live an optimistic, positive life. They don't believe in a lot of organized government. They like people to kind of be able to make decisions for themselves. A lot of times Taoists are a threat to governments, or governments would try to get rid of them in Asia because they felt like maybe they wouldn't follow laws that the government established. They believe all living beings have spirits that they need to be worshipped. They don't have any one single God. Alrighty. In fact, they have no cosmogony or anything like that. It's just more of a philosophy, more of a way of life. The second major Eastern religion, Confucianism, same thing, not a religion as much as a way of life. Doesn't preach anything about heaven, God, or gods. It's really the followings of one man, Confucius, this philosopher. And he basically said, hey, study, work hard, be dedicated to your country, to your family, to your emperor, and you're going to be supported. Hey, unlike Taoism, Confucianism was supported by governments of Asia, other than the communists, of course, because, hey, it tended to say, hey, be loyal, be dedicated to your nation, be patriotic, be good to your family and your country, and so therefore it was very popular with many of these faiths. Finally, folks, Sikhism. It's a new religion. It developed in India. It's a combination of Hinduism, Buddhism, and Islam. They do believe in one God, but they also believe in reincarnation and karma. Basically, what Sikhs believe is that there's a particular leader, a guru, they call him. No formal training, but he's basically the mouth or the word of God. And when one guru dies, he's replaced with a new guru that speaks in his, that replaces him, that is born. And so they identify, hey, who's the